Joining me now, my buddy Greg Price, Communications Director for the State Freedom Network. Greg, there are a lot of things that are interesting / horrifying about all this indictment stuff. But one of the truly interesting things is the timing of all of it. These things always seem to come down at a really good time for Joe Biden, don't they?
That's absolutely right. And it's happened literally 4 times at this point. You go back to March. The day after Hunter Biden admitted that the laptop was his, Trump got the notice that he was going to be indicted in the future. Back in June, it was the day after that the FBI gave Congress the FBI file alleging that the Bidens committed bribery. The day after that, Jack Smith indicted Donald Trump for the first time in the Mar-a-Lago case. July 26th, Hunter Biden went to court and rejected his sweetheart plea deal after we learned that not only was he getting misdemeanors on crimes that should have been felonies, but they tried to give him immunity from all future prosecutions. The day after that, Jack Smith added more charges for Donald Trump in the Mar-a-Lago docs case. And then the day after, Devin Archer goes to testify before Congress about how Joe Biden was on more than 20 calls with Hunter and his foreign business partners, about how they hired Hunter for the brand of the Biden family, put pressure on them to fire the prosecutor investigating Burisma. The day after Devin Archer goes to Congress to testify about all that, Jack Smith has now indicted Donald Trump again. And, just a coincidence, Jesse. There's nothing suspicious at all to see here about the timing of this.
Greg, I've been going through this in my head, figuring out where this is going. How does this end? And I can't find how Donald Trump stays out of prison. And as unbelievable and awful as that is to say, I just can't figure out how he could stay out of prison. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy at all, especially, this latest indictment is going to be adjudicated in Washington, D.C., with a judge who was a Barack Obama appointee and was one of the people giving really harsh sentences to January 6th defendants who basically were being charged with misdemeanors. Donald Trump in 2024 is not just running to become the president, Jesse. He's running for his freedom as well, because these people are committed to putting this guy in jail. The D.C. permanent Washington is willing to destroy this country in order to protect their own power, and they're doing that by trying to put Joe Biden's leading political opponent in jail. It's a very scary time for our country. These people have completely subverted justice. They're stretching out criminal statutes in order to target the one politician of over the last couple decades who actually served as a threat to establishment power in D.C. It's a really scary time for our country, Jesse.
In the meantime, Democrats are running to the television set to run cover for old Joe and his crimes. Here they are.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden's business associates? Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict them?
I don't know what his comment is.
I've never spoken to my son about going to
And if we're gonna, well, I don't think that's what he said.
I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Greg, that's the line they're going to go with, but Joe Biden did commit apparently some very real crimes, and he is in trouble? Is he not in trouble? I can't figure out if he's in trouble in this corrupt country we have.
Well, obviously nothing's going to happen. He controls the most powerful law enforcement agency in this country. The only thing that is a threat to him right now is the fact that Republicans control the House of Representatives. They have the gavel on the judiciary and oversight committees. But, what kind of consequences are they going to give? I have, let's just say, doubts that the GOP conference will come together and actually do something with the power that they have. And, it's funny to see Daniel Goldman, an heir to the Levi Strauss fortune, go out and say things like that, say things that he knows are false. He's basically decided to make his brand in Congress Diet Adam Schiff. And, everything he's been saying about the weather, that's all they talked about on these 20 plus calls. It's about as believable as his perfectly timed stock trades being just a coincidence.
Which brings us to the GOP and what they're prepared to do about it. Here's Anna Paulina Luna.
I was horrified when I heard 3 Republicans from Senate saying that they didn't want to move forward with impeachment for whatever reasons, that this was just tit for tat impeachment. This is not just tit for tat impeachment. This guy's publicly corrupt. We've seen it. If anyone did that, if I did it, if you did it, we'd be in jail right now. So what gives?
Okay, so we got Anna Paulina Luna, but we have a very thin GOP majority, and there's a bunch of losers in there, Greg. Forgive me if I'm skeptical.
You should be skeptical. There's only unfortunately a very small number of members of Congress who are actually serious about reversing America's decline, and Anna Paulina is thankfully one of them. But unfortunately, we have a lot that aren't. And there is a legitimate political question to be asked about pursuing impeachment of Joe Biden, how this would affect 2024, et cetera, but it's not going to happen unless Kevin McCarthy knows that the entire GOP conference, or at least enough votes, will be there at the end of the day in order to impeach this guy. He's not going to move forward if there aren't, and I highly doubt that there will be. Now, what he can do is launch an impeachment inquiry, which gives them a lot more subpoena power than we already have. But in terms of seeing actual legitimate consequences for Joe Biden, don't hold your breath on it anytime soon. And it's really funny to think about all of the things that we've learned. It was the biggest deal in the world. The sky was falling when Donald Trump Jr. took one 20-minute meeting with a Russian lawyer. Joe Biden, as vice president, had dinner with a Russian billionaire and the widow of the former mayor of Moscow, who then later that same year wired $3.5 million to his son. They were probably just talking about the weather too.
Golly. Greg, do you think Normie Norm, the guy who doesn't watch this show every night, the guy who doesn't follow your work, do you think Normie Norm is waking up to what kind of country he has, or is it just us, the hyper-informed, who know?
Well, in terms of breaking all of this stuff down, obviously, there's not a lot of people like you and me, Jesse, who pay attention to this stuff all day, every day. And so, but here's what the polling shows. There was a poll the other day, 70% of Americans think that the prosecution of Donald Trump is motivated by politics and not anything that he did. And, there was a poll that was taken shortly after the 2020 elections showing that if people had known about the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop, that it may have been that they probably would have changed their votes. So it's not like people don't know what's happening in this country. But it's up to us to use the megaphones that we have to let people know you are living under an irredeemably corrupt regime. And, it's not going away anytime soon. This is the reality of our country today.
Yeah, that's what we got. Greg, thank you, boss. I appreciate you.